My name is Greta Thunberg. I'm 60 years old. I come from Sweden and I want you to panic. I want you to act as if the house was on fire.
Friends of the Earth!
We're all here today because we know climate change is the biggest threat to our very existence and to much of the natural world we've ever seen.
Nothing is being done to stop the climate and ecological crisis. Nothing is being done.
What we do in the next few years will determine the future of our world.
Together we are making a difference. We will never stop fighting for this planet.
Hi everyone, I'm Mona Suleiman. I'm a campaigner at Friends of the Earth. With only a few days to go to the global climate strikes, where young people are inviting everyone to join them, we travelled the UK to speak to the people at the front line to ask why they're part of the movement and why they want everyone to join them. We are celebrating those who dare to be different in this podcast series, How to Save the Planet.
I'm Frances from the UK Student Climate Network. So the most common question I get asked is why? Why are you here? Why are you missing valuable education time? Why don't you just leave it to the adults? They know what they're doing. Well, it comes down to this. We can catch up on work, but we can't reverse the climate crisis. I don't want to miss school. Like the next person, I want to get good grades and go to university. But I, alongside millions of young people around the world, feel obligated to strike. Being disenfranchised and deprived of voice in our future, this is the only way we can make our voices heard. For too long, our futures have been shunted to the side by powerful people. This cannot be allowed to happen anymore. The biggest strength of the global climate action movement is our unity. Everything must change, and it has to start today.
Thank you, Frances, for that awesome speech, inspiring hundreds of young people in the room. Excitingly, we've been talking to other young people across the country about the great work they've been doing. So, over to them to hear more.
Hi, my name's Isabella. I'm 15 years old and I live in Cockermouth in Cumbria. I'm studying my GCSEs at the moment and I'm also a climate activist. I've been striking for the climate since February, when I was inspired by the activism of Greta Thunberg. I feel like I need to strike, because if I don't strike now and do something now, then I won't have a future. As well as striking, I've been talking to local politicians, teachers and people in the local community to see how we can reduce our environmental impact. I hope that by striking, the government will realise that we need action now, and that they will actually take the decisive steps needed to stop the climate crisis.
Hi. Hey, oh, how are you doing? I brought my young people with me.
That is Zanera, and she works for a conservation charity with young people and gets into nature and conservation. I'm outside a sunny building in King's Cross, North London today, and with less than a week to go to the global climate strikes, I'm really excited to be joining, I think, over 150 young people who have joined us to talk about what they're planning to do to prepare for the strikes, how they're promoting it, how they're making sure all adults are there, loud and clear, making sure they demand action on this climate emergency. I'm feeling really inspired. I think whenever you're planning work around strikes or whenever you're planning, protests and getting people out there, you can often feel disconnected, and it's really events like this that remind me why I'm fighting for this movement and remind me why I'm doing it with this fabulous young people who have just taken charge. People have travelled from all over. I just met a young girl from Bristol who actually spoke at an event on Tuesday as well, so you can tell just how busy these young people are. Honestly, they spend their mornings, afternoon, evening right now breathing the global strikes. strikes. I'm really excited to see a spread of people. I've just spoke to someone from Islamic Relief, from Friends of the Earth, from Amnesty International. And I guess one of the great or unifying things of the climate movement is that everyone can feel connected to it from a different angle, whether it's from faith, human rights, your own personal needs and wishes for your future and your own future as a young person. So I'm super, super excited. I can't wait to hear from people from NUS and to hear the young people and how they're mobilising students as well. I think all in all, it'll be a great day, and I just can't forget that the sun is beaming. I'm in a great mood, so it can only go up from here.
So my name's Umi, I'm 18, and I sort of started my climate activism through Friends of the Earth. I'm constantly in environmental activism, so if you want to know my schedule next week, I am at a craft council banner making. We meet once a month. Next week is the first meeting for me, and we are trying to bring sort of art and activism together. And then following that on the Thursday is actually an exhibition launch of climate art activism, and how those worlds can sort of come together, and how climate crisis is a melting pot of issues. It's not just environmental, it's intertwining social issues, whether that's racism, classism, feminism, mental health issues, the list goes on. So I think it's really important to sort of find your path of what connects you to climate crisis and how that impacts you and sort of your community, yeah. And then Friday, of course, I'm at the strike. But I think my main thing for Friday is trying to bring friends that don't feel aware or know much or experience much about it. We just happen to talk about the strike because I try and get all my friends. I'm that person that just bangs on about it. But you just need to have an emotional connection to it, and I have that. So my family come from Bangladesh, and I've been there 3 or 4 times. And even though the last time I went was about 4 years ago now, I saw the physical impacts then when it was. I usually go during the summer, which is monsoon season. It gets really, really hot, and just seeing that, and Bangladesh being one of the most vulnerable countries impacted, and they've actually contributed sort of the least or little amounts in comparison to Britain historically and even right now. That is something so personal to me and to my family. Even though when I've talked to her with my mum, it's the language we use. If I told her climate change, she wouldn't have a clue what I'm talking about. But if I just described what is happening in Bangladesh, she would 100% understand that. So I think we need to have adjustment and a change in the language we're using to bring together communities that sort of feel excluded. We don't have many years. People say 11 years, but no, it's been happening right under our nose for so many years, decades and decades. And even now, we're living in Britain where it's hot, it's 39 degrees this summer. That's not normal. I think living in it is personal. I think being an activist is passionately caring about an issue. It doesn't have to be climate activism specifically. It could be a social issue, it could be anything, but it's just actively doing something and not just thinking about it. It could be something as small as sharing it on your Instagram story. It's just actively taking that action and getting off your sofa a bit, really, yeah.
So it's about 5 o'clock. I've just come back from putting up some posters in town for the strike, and now I'm quickly trying to finish off some English and art homework before I've got a call about the Green New Deal at 6. Everything's been quite hectic lately, what with planning for the strike and having loads of homework to do, but I am excited for the strike, even though I'm a bit nervous that no one's going to turn up.
So we are at the end of the day of our awesome event with 150 young people from across the country who've all made their way to London today to get ready for strikes. The best part of the day, there's so many different things, but one thing that stuck out for me was speaking to your friends and family about the strikes and about the work that we do. I think often we're like, let's talk to everybody, and then you forget actually the people in your own personal world who may not be so connected. So that has been one thing that I'm like, I must tell my mum about the global climate strikes, because otherwise I've definitely done a disservice. And then other than that, it's just hearing how much work they've done. They've got so many celebrities on board, so many unions, and just to see how hard they've worked and the breadth of support is really, really just heartwarming. Today, we're in Cardiff to talk to some young people who are prepping for the strikes. I'm here with Alex and I'm here with Beth.
We're at Cornerstone and we're running a community climate assembly, and today we're going to be hearing from some speakers from both the Cardiff Youth Strike for Climate movement and trade unions, and hearing a little bit about the Green New Deal and about how we are supporting each other for the September the 20th climate strike. My name is Beth Irving. I'm 17 years old and I'm from the Cardiff Youth Strike for Climate movement. And I'm studying the International Baccalaureate. I think this has given me quite a rounded understanding of the world in general, but it's quite hard to balance between studies and campaigning. In terms of September the 20th, the focus is on the UN Climate Summit on the 23rd, which is happening in New York, and trying to put pressure on world leaders to kind of sit up and take notice. But it's also about making the biggest climate mobilisation in history. We're calling for 1 million people on the streets of the UK. It's set to be huge. We've got support from a lot of organisations and businesses, and it's about showing that this is not a one-issue crisis. This isn't about school children and their future. This is about saving lives now and stopping injustices from getting any worse. We're going to be setting off an alarm at a certain point during the day to symbolise the panic that people should be feeling of this being an emergency. I think you'll hear us.
I'm quite involved in a lot of activist groups, mainly in Cardiff and in relation to the sort of youth strikes. I'm involved with the UK Student Climate Network and the Cardiff Youth Strikers more generally, and I coordinate with a lot of groups like the Women's Strike Assembly to sort of organise events in Cardiff around the climate crisis. As I was leaving my biology lesson on Friday, a girl stopped me because she's seen me putting up posters for the youth strike, and then she's asked me about getting involved and stuff like that, so I sent her like an email with like a list of events that were sort of happening that she could go to. So yeah, it has just been me so far, but definitely there's interest among people my age and my immediate social surroundings who are gaining an interest, and I think that is an idea because it sort of spreads. It's like a disease, but a beneficial one. I've loved nature since I was a little kid, but I really wanted to protect it. And the only thing that was sort of presented to me were these sort of individual lifestyle choices. Like, I pretty much removed animal products from my diet. I refuse car lifts from my parents constantly. And it's placed on the individual. It's blaming the individual for a problem that's systematic. It's just 100 companies produce over 71% of greenhouse gas emissions. And yet, governments, their response is, well, it's really your fault because you used a plastic straw. The youth strike in January was the first protest I ever in. I remember feeling so nervous, but then sort of you get together and you're all sort of scared children, but when you start shouting, it's like the voices of the gods from the heavens.
The thing I'm most impacted by is hope. I think it's so easy to reflect on doom and gloom and the challenge ahead of us, but when I'm with so many different people from across society, like hope really resonates and is just the thing that emits in that space. I'm really moved by that.